characharam tatpadam darsitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Ajnanatimidandasya jnananjalam shalakaya chakshurumeditam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahm, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Fell between the butter. So, we stopped at Dhanurgritva, Upanishadam, Mahaastram, Charam hi upasnisitam samadadita, taking as the bow the great Upanishad. Didn't we finish that, right? Huh?
Yes.
Yeah. Pranavo dhanu sharo hi atma brahmatal lakshyam uchyate apramattena vedabhyam shravattanmayo bhavet. The syllable Om is the bow. What did they say before? Taking as the bow the Upanishads. One should place the arrow sharpened by meditation, drawing it with a mind engaged in contemplation of that Brahman. Oh, beloved, know that imperishable Brahman as the target. That's what was said before. And they slightly changed the record now. The syllable Om is the bow. Oneself indeed is the arrow. Brahman is spoken of as a target of all. It is to be hit without a mistake. Thus one becomes united with it as the arrow becomes one with the target. So the metaphor is changed slightly. Say now, the syllable Om is the bow. Oneself, right now the small self, is indeed the arrow. Brahman, the bigger self, is spoken of as the target. It is to be hit without a mistake. Then the arrow becomes united with the target, which means right now, being a small self, why? Because we have our limitations, we have everything. So, and understanding that the same self, without any limitations, is the supreme reality. Use the small self as the air, which is the only thing you have as you, right? And then say to yourself that what I am seeking is the bigger self, the greater self, and hit without any mistake. Which means be completely one-pointed in the search for the Supreme Self. And the best illustration for one-pointedness is the arrow which hits the target. Now, this is because in those days they didn't have good quality Winchester rifles. Otherwise they would have said, hold the rifle of the self in your hand, aim the little self, the bullet, and hit the target, which is the bigger self. So when you write the Upanishads, you can understandable language. He in whom the sky, the earth, and the interspace, sky, the earth, and what is in the middle are woven together, as also the mind, along with all the vital breaths. Know that alone as the one self. Dismiss other utterances. This is the bridge to immortality. Yasmin dhyavo prithvihi sa antariksham otham manaha saha pranescha sarve tam evekam janata atmanam anyavacho vimunchata amritasya setu. Don't listen to all other gossip and talk. Dismiss them all away. Understand that Supreme Self, He in whom the sky, the earth and the interspace between them are woven together, as also the mind along with all the vital breaths. Know Him alone as the one Supreme Self. Dismiss other utterances. They themselves have uttered many things. Dismiss other utterances. This is the bridge to immortality. Even in ordinary things of the world we say, if you want to achieve something, visualize that you have already achieved it and you're sitting there and slowly you move towards it. This is the visual psychology. If you go to a psychologist, I'm feeling very down. I want to just visualize that you are going towards it. Don't listen to anybody who discourages you. Look straight ahead and move forward in the same way. Understand this, that we are saying this in the Upanishad. Forget about all other utterances which say, oh no, you are so tiny, you cannot be that, and so on. And move forward. Where the arteries of the body are brought together like the spokes in the center of a wheel, within it, this self moves about manifold. Meditate on the Om as the self, and the Rishi wishes you well. May you be successful in crossing over to the further shore of darkness. So, what is the statement? Araiva rathanabho samhata yatra nadhya sa esho anantascharate bahuda jayamanaha. Where the arteries of the body are brought together like the spokes in the center of a wheel, within it this self moves about, becoming manifold. Meditate on Om as the self. May you be successful in crossing over to the further shore. Which means the center of your being. It does not mean a physical organ. The center of your being. Well, you can think of it as here or wherever you want to locate. Where all the arteries, when they say arteries, it's not actually arteries. It's like all the channels of energy, everything, seeing, hearing, so on and so forth, they all merge together in the center because they come from there. In that center, sports about the self. So fix your attention there, and it's also called the Om. Meditate on the self as Om. I meditate on the self as Om, not only the sound of Om, which he says is the bridge that takes you across, but also because Om is a symbol of all the three states of consciousness, which you transcend ultimately. How? What are the states of consciousness? Did they teach you in Mauritius? Yeah, you're right. So, that's not from my books, it's a fact. The fact is, we have 3 states of consciousness, known and one unknown. No, normally. So, and that is represented by Om. The sound of A, U and Ma are separated into 3 compartments, and A is the sound of the waking state, which is common to all beings. At some point or the other, people stay awake, right? May not be now, but sometimes. So, the waking state of consciousness, which is common to all, is the A. The dream state of consciousness, which is also common to all, both night dreaming and daydreaming, is represented by U, middle. And deep sleep, which is also common to all, which is the most enjoyable, is represented by the Ma, Om. Now, what we need to understand or observe is that there is a common link between these 3 states, which is the witness. When you're awake, there is a witness watching. When you're dreaming, there is a witness watching. When you're deep sleep, apparently there is a witness, but you don't remember it. In deep sleep, how can you remember? You can't remember the witness. But when you wake up, you say, I had a wonderful sleep, which means there was some witness out there, the same witness, which at that point you did not know. But when you wake up, there are elements of leftover bliss of that deep sleep, which you say, that was a blissful sleep. And this is the reason why. Because in sleep, everything is at rest. Body is doing its job. Digestion is going on, breathing is going on. You don't have to do anything about it. Do we say breathe or do we say digest? No. All you can do is put food in your mouth and chew and swallow it if the muscles are okay. Otherwise you can't even do that. And then the rest, we don't know. Food is being digested, nutrients are being drawn, waste is being... It's not my job. I don't have to say, this waste has to not come this way, but this way. It doesn't work. Automatic. So, in deep sleep, the reason why if we're really blissfully asleep, we don't want to wake up, is because it is the most blissful. You keep an alarm and it rings 5 times, you switch it off and sleep because, it's so nice. The borderline between sleep and waking is very blissful, because the self then is aware that is enjoying the bliss. So what we notice is, in waking, in dream and in deep sleep, there is a witness. Now there is something called Turiya, the 4th, which we generally don't recognize. And that is, seeing the witness which does not change in any way, but it enjoys, but is not in any way involved in this. Seeing it without break, normally waking one, dream one, deep no, without break, in a continuous way, that self which is the witness, which is pure bliss, that is called Turiya. Seeing that is Turiya. Turiya is not a state, it's a witness of all the states, and it cannot be defined. No. So, Upanishad is exhorting you to consider the self as the Om. And it's very interesting. If one can free the witness, the self, through some way, you don't know, through some way, or at least understand it theoretically, this much, that it is witnessing everything and not changing in any way. What it witnesses may be sometimes real, sometimes an illusion, but it doesn't change. The witness doesn't change. Let's see, for instance, when you dream. When you dream, do you know it's a dream? Sometimes, but generally not. We don't know it's a dream. It's so real to us. So is it real? But it appears real. When you wake up, it's a dream. What if we dwell in the dream world for a long period? Then this state might be a dream. What? Who knows? And what is the guarantee that you don't wake up one day, yawn and say, now, what a long dream. What's the guarantee? If I tell you now, you say, no, it can't be. Why? But then when you dream, somebody says it's a dream, you say, no, shut up. I can see the tiger chasing me. So consciousness is very funny. It makes you live through things which don't exist. And it sometimes is not exposing you to things which really exist. And what is the real existence between these three? It's the conscious witness of everything. It enjoys the fruits of all your sufferings and sitting there happily. Now the problem is we recognize it is that and everything is over. Not so difficult but not so easy. It's somewhere in between. It takes a lot of time to go inside and get settled. Once this happens, then you're free. So, Upanishad says that self is Om, because it is the witness of all the three states of A, U and Ma. So go into the source and understand. That is, you said something?
Sir, it seems so hard to recognize and distinguish the witness from what it is witnessing. Is the witness a kind of noun, or is it rather a verb, where the witness is rather the witnessing?
I haven't thought about this, but I need to think about it. I'll ask the witness. You said, is it a noun or a verb?
In other words, the witness.
I got it.
It's actual witnessing.
I got it.
Versus an actual entity.
It's
separate from the witnessing.
Well, this theoretically cannot be differentiated. But when you understand the self, then there is nothing but the self. There is no activity.
Stillness.
When we say stillness, it means no activity. But here it is tremendous activity, but stillness.
Stillness within action.
So this is the same thing which is said in Gita, active and not active at the same time.
Oh, what?
There's a part of Gita which says that these people who have reached the truth, they are active and not active in activity. That is what exactly...
Roughly, this is what he's asking. But he's asking in a more, I think, philosophical sense of the term. Let me explain this. Let's get there slowly, okay? Let's get there slowly. Who knows? When we get up from this room, you might know what it is. Let's see. So, no, I don't think anyone is not qualified to find it. Mind has to be clean, of course, and clear. Okay. We think, normally we believe or we think, that thought is a long process. I mean, it's continuous. Right now, because it's so, generally it's so, that's how we feel, it's continuous, it goes on, and there is no break. However, if you look a little carefully, discussed in another Upanishad, if you look very carefully, you notice one thing, that one thought comes and is immediately in this in an interval of an infinitesimal second, is replaced by another thought. And then by another, and then by another. But the gap between this going and the other coming is so imperceptibly small that we cannot hold it, we cannot catch it. It's like time. I say now and it's already not now. I say then and it then has become now and has gone back. See what I'm trying to say? We cannot hold it and say, stay. No, it's gone back into the... In the same way, thought, the moment it bubbles, then it's gone back and another one comes. The thing is, we think it's a continuous thing, but these are the little thoughts linked together like a chain. Now, in olden days we had the movie hall where they had this 16mm or 8mm films. Have you looked at that? I don't know, maybe before your time? And that, if a person raises up his hand, innumerable frames, in one hand, and then it is like this, then it is like this, then it is like this. Now, so each one is shot as a separate frame. And now we have digital. 1 second, let me finish. And then, when it goes in a certain speed and projected into the camera, it looks like one whole. There is no distance between the two. It is the same with thought process. It moves. The separation between each movement is so small that we cannot grasp it. The Upanishad says, suppose you could find this interval between a thought which has just come and the one which is coming and the one which is gone, then you have touched the essence of thought. No more is thought going to disturb you. You've got that. It's the same with the self. When you are identified with the self that moves with time, which has a present, past and future, then it's fragmented. When you see only that which is a witness without any of these, then there is no action to see actually, it's enjoying itself.
Did you ever come out of that saying that I was in that state? I guess
Say that again.
it's how you just gave the analogy.
It's getting complicated. Huh? What?
The analogy of now has already passed and it's gone to the past tense. So in some sense, it makes me think that if I did ever touch being a witness, I was not a witness because there's something else that's watching it, which means I wasn't there. So my question is, if one had had the experience of being in witnessing, I would theoretically imagine that is a pure experience and there's nothing to have noticed to have happened, right? It's an experience, right?
It's not something to be carried. It's not something to be remembered.
Yeah, that's
It's
what I
not.
was trying to say.
It's what it is at that moment.
It's a very good point here. She's saying the now is the now. It's not an actual experience because it's
It is not. It is not. It's not a normal experience. Nobody can experience the now unless we hit upon the target.
And the space between thoughts and ideas and perception is really arbitrary, but it's there. So therefore the now is always constantly there within the movement.
Yes, very much.
Yeah.
You're right.
But
To hold it, to find it is the problem. When you find it, you know it. But you can't give up. You need to keep trying to do that. First thing is to theoretically understand it. Till it sinks.
a merry-go-round.
No, it's not a matter.
When you go to the very center, you can't get to the very center, but you know the very center is not moving, it's in the now.
Yeah.
But you just can't get there.
Yes. It's the axle which doesn't move. Everything else is moving.
Sure.
And without that, nothing can move.
So even in certain states of samadhi, you're still not...
Of course, there are many states. There are many states of samadhi. Savikalpa, Nirvikalpa, Nirbija, and Patanjali has technically gone into different descriptions of samadhi, starting with Savikalpa and so on. Which means, as the mind goes deeper and deeper, these layers are slowly separated. They fall off rather, not separated. And then one day it's there. But you can't say one day because it is every day. Okay, let's look at it in another way. Since you asked the question, let's look at it. Can the knowledge that we have of anything that we have be ever the truth, the reality? Why? Because the reality has to be now. Okay, and what is knowledge? Then?
All knowledge is memory.
Exactly. Absolutely. Before, suppose I want to know about this, I don't know at the moment, then I want to study it. I studied it. And then I say, I know about this. It's easier to do on a microphone than a human being. And you can never say, I know this person. God knows what all layers are inside. Anyway, you say, okay, I know this person. It's nice to live without saying, I don't know. About human beings, I'm saying, because you're in for a shock suddenly. So, you want to study this, and till you study it, you don't know. Once you have studied it, when I say I know about the microphone, which means I have learnt about the microphone, and I have a memory of that which I have stored in my mind, which can be opened at any given moment. That's the meaning of saying I know about it. It's not there always with me. When I'm eating, I'm not thinking of the microphone. It's there. I have understood and stored it in my memory. And when I want to know, when somebody says microphone, it comes back. Yes or no? Yes. Now, the question is, if truth is present and is there now and not the past, can you find any knowledge, including the knowledge of the scriptures, which is now, it's all stored in my memory, therefore it's in the past? It cannot be now. And therefore, that truth cannot be stored in a memory. And therefore, what does it mean? That it is there at every moment. It's not as if it's finally made something and put away and you can go dig and dig it out like a treasure. No, it's like a flow of the river. Which doesn't stop, but which you can freeze at certain points, but it actually does not freeze. This life is also like that. It's a moment, continuous moment, and we want to freeze it. The entire art of photography is an attempt to freeze that which does not freeze but moves. Because we are fond of that freeze. Because something good moment, so I want to freeze it. We know deep down that it doesn't stay, it moves, so what? At least I have a picture of it, right? So this flow is not only, this flow, how do I define it? Is a stillness which flows, whatever. This is why the Upanishad goes to the extent of saying I don't know how to say this to you. Because whoever has gone into it, come back and say, if somebody finds it, then they know it. If I say it, I cannot define it. I cannot do justice to it.
Seems like it's a 0 or 1, either you've touched it or you haven't. And in the meantime, all sadhana seems that it could have been one imagination after another. So how does one...
This is all intellectual nonsense, forget it. You can imagine, you're imagining this also.
Yeah.
What you see in front of you is also maybe your imagination. Maybe it's a dream sequence.
Yeah.
You don't know. So I said, wake up. So when you wake up, you see the sequence. And you don't want to see it, there's no point. But let me show you that it cannot be found by this kind of hair-splitting arguments. Not possible. You need to still the mind, and when it settles down, perhaps it's visible. I am nowhere in the picture at that point. Only it is there.
That's the question. How does one get to the self, which we talked about? Because it seems like every manifestation is not self, every doing is not self.
Okay.
But all those manifestations are that which points to self.
Yes.
And is that the only way to know self, by which, because of the pointing?
Yes. Look, this is why in the Vedantic system of thought, all that is not the self is eliminated, like she was saying, as this is not the self. This cannot be the self. Because it is moving, it's an illusion, so it can't. So one by one you keep eliminating it. Neti, not this, not this. Then you come to something which cannot be eliminated, however much you try. Then you stay. So look, listen, again, this is not something which can be grasped. It's something which is when there is no grasping whatsoever. When I say I cannot catch it with this limited mind and intellect of mine.
But how does the witness himself?
Yes.
It seems like there's a way for the witness to witness the witness.
See that?
There seems to be your
This is just an argument, it's not a reality. What you're saying just now. What I'm trying to say is, as you understand that none of the things you identify with and call the self is the self, including your idea of the self now, which you probably derived from the Upanishad. It's still an idea, it's not the self. So when you have eliminated all that and you say, no, I cannot find it, so there is no point in reaching or grasping, and then let go. In that let go-ness, there is something. Till then, it's tough. But then you need to work with one point. See, unless you have deep desire to touch it, it will not happen. If you are satisfied with the world, it is okay. It will not happen. When you have that deep, irresistible desire, and then you are confused, I don't know how to find it, I have to, but it's not there in anything that I know of, including the idea of it. Eliminate that also. And one day then, when you're sitting under the tree and looking at a burnt shit, you'll say, I found it. I'm not joking. You'll wonder what, suddenly, like a bomb. But all this preparation is essential, that's what I'm trying to say. The preparation is essential, but the preparation is not the thing. You know what I mean? What happens is, we get caught up in this idea that the preparation is the goal. It's not. Okay, let me tell you a story. Please take that microphone away. I'm going to keep him quiet for a second. You want the microphone? You want the microphone? Okay. I'm going to tell you the story about a particular kind of, we have to try to understand whatever happens. So I'm trying this way, that way, desperately. There's a particular old branch of the Vajrayana called Dzogchen. If you want to write it in English, you start with a D and spell it with DZ, Dzogchen, D-Z-O-G. This is one of the earliest teachings from Padmasambhava's time. It's called the instant illumination. So one day, a master of Dzogchen and a disciple, like a friend, I called you my disciple, went for a walk. So the disciple was complaining to him, what is this, master? So many years, you've been learning this, I've been teaching this, you've been answering, but nothing is happening to me. I don't experience Dzogchen, so what to do? Shall I leave you? Shall I stay? It's tough on me, but I'm serious. Master kept quiet, they walked. Then I came to a big hill. Master said to the student, you see that there was a cloth sack there, gunny bag. I said, take that gunny bag and fill it up with all the muck and the stones that were lying around, rocks. Fill to the top till it's very heavy. Tie it up. Okay. The student was wondering, what kind of meditation is this? Okay, tie it. Now what? Put it on your back. See the hill up there? Climb up to the top. So this guy, with great difficulty, trudged up the path, painfully, of course. And when he reached the top, he was almost on the verge of dying, falling down. And then he saw this. Meanwhile, the master had already come up on a horse, very easy. And he was waiting for it. There was a big tree there. So he was holding it still because the master did not ask him to put it down. See this? He didn't put it down. He was waiting for the master, such a serious student. So he said, Master, now what? What do I do with this? He said, throw it down. So he threw it down. Took a deep breath. There was only one tree there on the top, so he sat under the tree, took a few deep breaths. And he said, I got it. Because he had thrown away all the burdens it's not physical what I mean. And there you go. So it's not as if you're searching for something mysterious or, with stars coming up or something like that. It's something natural to us, which is our own consciousness. Okay. There was another Zen master who was with a student, a Dzogchen master. And they were walking along, and in the night they came to a resting place. And throughout, the student was complaining. 30 years with you, nothing has happened to me. What is this? Am I wasting my time? No. I did this meditation, that meditation. I stood on my head and shook my legs. And then they came to the top of the hill. There was a flat surface. So the master and this disciple put everything down, lay down. It was nice and cool. And there were stars in the sky. And far away in the village, there were dogs barking somewhere. And they were And the master said to the student, look, this is Dzogchen, what are you looking for? So somebody said, is the dog barking Dzogchen? It's that when the mind is free of all effort, not laziness, okay? When the mind is free of all effort, after having tried very, very hard, but try. If you don't try, you cannot give up. Don't say, from the beginning I am finished, I am there in the Brahma. No. And then, when everything settles down and all extraneous matter has been removed one by one, layer by layer, like the peeling of an onion, one layer, one layer, one layer. Nothing is left. That nothing is something. That's your true self. But it's always, our so-called self always comes in the way. That is the problem. So there are no two, there is only one self. I know while we live in division, it's difficult to understand this. Because our mind is constantly divided into isolated pieces and stitched together by a very doubtful thread. It likes to think it is one, but it is many pieces together. So when all the pieces have fallen off, what remains is the self. Believe me, one might think it's difficult, but sometimes it may not even be difficult. It may just be. Proceed.
When you are looking at different sort of body sheets, what we call that, mind, intellect, therefore causal body. When you look at Sakshi, look at Sakshi. Sakshi also is a witness state, also is a reflecting of the real.
Of course, when you look at it, it's a reflection. When it looks at you, it's not a reflection.
When you are trying to understand the sheet, which is the witness state,
As long as,
it is only a reflective.
absolutely, as long as you are trying to understand, it's not the real. When you have said that this is impossible to understand, like this, by analysis or by looking, and then you let go and sit quietly, then there is a witness there.
So when you are getting into the witness bhava, still there is a reflective state which is the
Of course, of course.
and that's what you have to reach basically.
Yes. You can't reach when you are...
Reach.
yeah.
That's the target.
Okay. Actually, we are going round.
It's mantra later. It's mantra.
Yeah. So, shall we proceed a little bit? Now this self which was described, he consists of mind, is a leader of life and body, seated in food, controlling the heart. The wise perceive clearly by the knowledge of the Brahman, the blissful immortal which shines forth. Means he consists of the mind. Because he is the source of the mind finds it hard to find him. Manasana manyate enahur manomatam. If you say, does it really exist, then, well, a young child one day asked his father and mother, Mom, Daddy, do you really love me? I said, yes, we very much love you. Then why didn't you invite me for your wedding? Similar. So, he, the Supreme Being, consists of the mind. It means the mind, thought, everything proceeds from that. Like you're in deep sleep, then you wake up, you have one thought. What is the first thought that comes? I exist. Yes? Listen carefully. When I wake up, what is the first thought? I exist. How do I know I exist? Because I can see the trees. So then that exists. Then 3, 4, 5 and the whole multiple world comes into being. The first thing is I. Right? So therefore, it's the source of the mind. First there is only the I. And then from there, I see this, I see that, I see 2, 3, 4, and it goes on, multiplying. So therefore, the Supreme Self is referred to here as that which gives food to the mind. Because from 1 it becomes 2 and 3 and goes. And therefore, it's that which is the witness of life, seated inside, controlling the heart. The wise perceive clearly by the knowledge of the Brahman, the blissful immortal which shines forth. Then what happens when that happens? When one sees that, vidyate hridaya granthis chidyante sarva samshaya kiyante chasya karmani tasmin drishte parapti. The knot of the heart is cut, all doubts are dispelled, his deeds terminate when that is seen, which is the higher and the lower. Which means to say that until that is understood and experienced fully, questions will never end. You cannot solve it through questions. Because when you have answered one question, another question will arise. This is the nature of the mind. You answer one question. For some time you are happy. Why? Because the mind has created the question and the mind is seeking the answers to it. Anything else can know the mind. And then you answered for some time, everything is nice. Then another question crops up. And then we are seeking an answer to that question. You have answered the question, for some time another one crops up. The Upanishad says this goes on as a continuous process until the mind understands that no kind of question can answer the question of the Supreme Being and says, okay, let me keep quiet. In that quietness, when the self is understood, there are no more questions. Till then it continues. You can keep on providing answers, but there will be more questions coming in. So this whole process or cycle of never-ending question and answers has to be understood as also one temptation. And let go. You say, this is not going to work. I can keep asking. But there are no ultimate answers. So maybe when I stop and look within, I might find something. And when this happens, if it happens, and when it happens, all the knots of the mind are cut. All the doubts are dispelled, there are no more questions to ask. And all deeds terminate because there is nothing to do actually. When you are hungry, you eat, of course, but beyond that, there is nothing to do. The thing is, when this happens, there is this thing, this strong feeling that you want to share it with others. That is it. Not as a profit-making business, but you feel, hey, it's wonderful. Why would now someone not understand this? Can we share this with others? Beyond that, there is no activity. So, any question again on this?
So when you speak about Turiya, is Turiya the same as Brahman, the Nirguni Brahman, or are they different?
Technically no, because Turiya is, when you classify it with waking, dream and deep sleep, then it is presented as a state. But when you know Turiya, then it is the self. So in a way you're right, that Turiya is not actually like dream, waking and deep sleep. It's a witness to all of this together. And therefore it is the Brahman. But technically we say in Turiya it is the Brahman.
When the Nirguni Brahman is spoken about, it's Nirakara, Sarvavyapi. Can you help me understand this in the context of what you spoke about, the Bindu and the Sahasrara? Because where does the consciousness come when
Yes.
Bindu is...
Yes. Now here is where we are going, we're trying to link. You know what? This, our so-called rational mind, it's good to have a rational mind. Our so-called rational mind is very limited by the fact that the only inputs it gets are from the five senses. Are there any other inputs? Eyes, ears, nose, touch and taste. These are the five inputs. These are our instruments of perception. Memory coming from this. The basic is not memory. Basic is the five senses. Experiences of the five senses stored as memory. This is the only available data for us. We don't have any other data. And even if you think we are thinking of higher things, the data is kind of manufactured from these five senses and our experiences with it. Either we see something or you don't see something. This is what the eye says. You cannot say that there is something which can be seen and yet not be seen. Not possible for the eye to understand. Right? So, the entire our rational mind is based on the inputs or the data that we receive from the five senses. And the data is very often incorrect and sometimes even illusory. I think, I'm still using my rational brain. I think that this is the shape of this disc. Why? Because my eyes sees it in this way. What if my eye sees it differently? What if instead of a convex lens I had an irregular concave lens in my eyes? When I was born, not now. Then I would not see this disc like this. I may see it as something else. I may call it a disc, depends on how you name it. And you, with your instruments of perception, will see it as something different. If you have different set of instruments. So what is the actual shape of the thing? We don't know. But something exists. It does, but we don't know how it exists. We know only the image offered to us by our sense organs. We have no other standard of judgment. Something exists, of course, but how it exists, does it exist as we think it is, or as somebody else thinks it is? This is very relative. So only existence is certain. How it exists, in what form it exists, is not certain. Depends on your instruments of perception. Right? So all our so-called rational things, including that of the Brahman, or the Supreme Being, whatever, it all is based on the kind of pattern that the mind builds, based only on the experiences and inputs of our five senses, and from there manufactured into different theories and so on. The brain. Some part of the brain. So, what you're asking is, so therefore, what is the connection between the Sahasrara and the Bindu and so on? Yeah. So the whole process of this particular sadhana that we are talking about is to open up other instruments of perception. Apart from the five sensory perceptions. When the other instruments of perception are opened up, then your understanding and your thought process can be quite different from what it is now. And we are saying only then is it possible to look at these things which you are discussing. 4 o'clock. We'll take it up as a separate subject when we come back and discuss it. Now we are going back to the world of the 5 senses.